Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Tammy, for an insightful presentation just proceeding. You know, in a few years, there will be no speeches from IBM employees because Watson will deliver all the speeches. So enjoy it while you can. It adds that personal touch. Okay, as Missy said, I'm co-founder of Marin. I've been doing paid search for about 10 years. We founded the company about 8 years ago, realizing there was a need for a software-first player in the search management application area. We've since broadened beyond search to manage Facebook and some retargeting channels. And I'll be talking a little bit about the state of paid search today, but I'm going to start at a high level and touch on some overall trends that we see just briefly. And it looks like the slide's getting clipped a little bit. I don't know if we can do anything about that, but it says key online ad trends. And Tammy mentioned the same thing, the shift from keywords to audiences. It's great to have the focused intent targeting that paid search delivers to a marketer, but you also want to know a little bit about who you're talking to, whom you're talking to, I should say, and how you can get more of those people like that. And that's when we get to an audiences conversation. Audiences can be built through demographic targeting, or they can be built through contextual targeting, which means what are people reading, and then they can be built through behavioral targeting. What have people done in the past? What have they done on your website? Or what have they done on somebody else's website? And there's also, while everybody talks about how Google continues to grow and sort of sweep up and consolidate the industry, there is actually a proliferation of channels as well. When we founded Marin, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no LinkedIn. There was LinkedIn, but they weren't selling ads. So the growth of channels has actually been significant, even in the face of Google's growth. And I want to talk about a little around bidding improvements and attribution improvements, which have been significant. Also, the data that marketers are bringing to their practice that allows them to put a more accurate value on that traffic. So let's jump in. Top level, advertising overall is about a $500 billion industry, okay? It's a massive, massive industry. A big chunk of that is digital. That's the dark bar at the bottom, estimated at $174 billion in media spending in 2017. And it's also driving the growth in the ad market. The rest of the ad market is relatively flat. That's print, online, print, television, outdoor. And most of the growth is on the digital side. People are spending more time in digital, and they're using digital for more and more research, as well as general interest and entertainment. So that's driving the growth. Zooming into digital a little bit, we see that paid search is a big chunk of that. About half of that $174 billion in 2017 will be paid search. And it's growing at 13% per year. Obviously, that growth has slowed as it's become so large. There are a couple of channels that are growing at double the rate of search. That's mobile and social. So if you look at the growth of Facebook, for example, that's inside social. And then display looks relatively flat. There are portions within display like programmatic display or real-time bidding, which are growing quite fast within display. And then tier 1 banner ads, for example, which are purchased up front, are growing less slowly. And programmatic display is taking share. But display overall is quite large also, $52 billion for 2017. So these are helpful stats. We collected these from a couple different places, and it was sort of good to see them in one place. All right. Thanks to the AV guys for fixing the titles. Appreciate that. Let's take a look at a recent SERP page. There are some improvements and enhancements that have been made on these I guess we don't have any animation. Maybe the team can advance the slide slowly through the animation, but I'm basically calling out differences and enhancements. So the first one is site links. Can you raise your hand if you as a marketer are employing site links today? Okay, most people. Marin customers, 76% of them have site links for especially their brand terms. And site links increase the real estate on the page. It's basically like, you know, you're taking an extra dozen pixels for that position 1 ad, which pushes the rest of the page down, gives you more real estate, and offers more places for people to click. Not that people actually click that much on the site links, but it's just good real estate to have. So site links are a no-brainer. If you're going to be paying for position 1, or if you get position 1 by virtue of your quality score, you may as well be there. The next one is product listing ads. Product listing ads have pictures, so they get a much higher click-through rate and a much more relevant click than text ads, because people can confirm, and this is actually kind of funny in this example, because you're not probably looking for a razor, like a kick scooter, and then you end up buying the kid's electric motorcycle or whatever that is. So in this case, the picture actually helps you discern as a consumer which one you want to click on. But product listing ads convert really well. They have a very high click-through rate. They're growing like leaps and bounds. So if you are a retailer and you are allowed to use product listing ads, then you should definitely be doing that. A couple of other things on this page. Organic deep links, that's an SEO capability. So as a marketer, you want to make sure that Google understands how your site is structured. You're promoting some links for them. And then social, up in the right. The panel info, which is organic information that Google is now collecting to try to be a little closer to the consumer and provide information right on the page without any click at all. And obviously that pushes position 2 through 8 down the page. And then in the lower right corner, you'll see a phone number there, and that's a call extension, which you do through ad extension capability. So I guess my point here is that the paid search world and the natural search world and social keep changing, right? And it's challenging to stay on top of all this stuff. And it's great to see so many people turning out for conferences like this, and they can share their best practices. Okay, the next slide, please. Drilling into mobile a little bit, fast-growing area. Mobile will be half of all clicks by the end of next year, and it will be half of the spending shortly after that. Mobile clicks are currently less expensive than paid clicks. They do have a higher click-through rate, 3.7 average click-through rate versus 2.7 and 2.5 for tablets and desktop. Anybody have any ideas why the click-through rate is higher on mobile? And feel free to just shout it out. It's hard to scroll. That was one. Fewer links to click on. Incidental clicks, I think that's part of it. We have a very simple theory on this one, which is that there are fewer ads shown, and therefore everything, if you're showing it all on mobile, you're in position 1 or 2. Whereas on a tablet and a desktop, you can be down in position 6, position 3, where the click-through rate is much lower. So if you actually look at the click-through rate for a position 1 desktop ad, it is the same as a position 1 mobile ad, which is basically the same as all mobile ads. So it's really it's a deceiving statistic. It's by virtue of the northern nature of mobile ads, if that makes sense. I didn't explain it very well. Thanks for being my guinea pig audience today. I'll be doing this same speech again next week at another show. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, and then the tablet conversion rate is actually higher than desktop. Now I've shifted from click-through rate to conversion rate. Very important. Conversion rate is when people do actually click, do they buy something? And this means that the thoughtful marketers would typically, if they saw this for their ads, would be paying more for those tablet clicks, which is really interesting. So the theory there is that the tablet consumer demographic is more purchase-ready demographic than the desktop demographic. Mobile conversion rates are lower than tablets and desktop. People have a hard time completing the purchase process on their phones. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be advertising on mobile, because they could be doing valuable research and then convert later on another device. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. There you go. Okay, we were talking about PLAs a moment ago. Just to drill in on PLAs a little bit, 300% growth in holiday season 2013. Partly that's because people just didn't really have their ads set up in 2012. Google wasn't showing it as prevalently. And 20% of all shopping clicks was on a PLA. And we think this will go up another 50% for next holiday season. So again, PLAs are very specific to retailers. If you rent stuff or if you provide a service, Google won't show PLAs for you. In 2013, smartphone PLAs had a 33% higher click-through rate than PLAs on desktop and tablet. So it's a great fit for mobile. And you can see the chart of click-through rates improving over time. Shopping campaigns is a recent change that's layered on top of product listing ads. Product listing ads are not going away. Google's just making it easier to manage product listing ads, and shopping campaigns does that. You used to have to, before shopping campaigns, you had to set up these elaborate rules called product targets inside your ad groups to show your PLAs and tell Google when to show what product with what search terms, and then have an object that you can set a bid for inside AdWords. Shopping campaigns does all that for you. It looks at the fields available in your Merchant Center feed, and then you get to choose which field you want to break them out by. So if you have manufacturer or you have category, you can break them out by that field and then set a bid for each value. So think of shopping campaigns as really the wizardification, if that's a word, of PLAs. And things are, PLAs, as I said, they're kind of limited now, but these are going to expand to other areas and other categories. This is a screenshot of hotel price ads, HPAs. So if you're in the travel business, you know all about this. For those of you that are not in the travel business, keep your eyes open. Google is disintermediating the travel sites, getting that inventory directly, and showing it on the SERP page. So feed-based advertising, we think, will be a general growth area, not just for retailers over time. They're also doing insurance ads in some geographies, like the UK, car insurance. Stepping back a moment, as I said before, search has been a great tool for matching the intent of a consumer to the interest of a marketer. And basically, it's based on these intentions. So if I'm a golfer, I type various terms, you know, a new putter, or a new driver, FootJoy shoes, or you know, a rangefinder, and Google matches me instantly with the people that are selling that stuff. That can only go so far. And I spend time at Marin with the mathematicians that work on our bidding algorithm, and they're getting ever more elaborate on what they're trying to do. And they're basically pulling nickels out of the back of a couch, you know? And that's great, but it's so much bigger than that. there are all these people out there, and we want to reach more people. We don't just want to wait for people to type their intent, even though that works well. We're going to do that, and we want to go get some more people that match that profile or that we've done business with before and bring them back, so that search becomes not just an acquisition vehicle, it becomes a renewal and management vehicle for the marketer. I'm going to show an example here. This is Money Supermarket. This is a UK-based financial services company, consumer financial services, like insurance. The shot on the left is an example of the Money Supermarket website. They're basically pixeling a visitor, and they know that visitor to be in a certain stage of renewal or prospecting with them. And then they're plowing that, they're creating an audience around that behavior. So if you've reached this page on the Money Supermarket site, you must be a customer or you must be about to buy something. And they put you in an audience. Then you can set up that audience in Google now using RLSA, retargeting lists for search ads. And then you can actually set a boost value for that audience. So they've found that for a customer that's coming up on their renewal, they want to double the bid to make sure they get their ad front and center. If they don't know about that customer at all, or if the customer has just renewed, then they can decrease the bid and save some money. So it's about maximizing their ROI on their paid search spending by overlaying this audience information and then boosting the bids up or down as appropriate. So I thought this was a really powerful example of combining audiences with intent. Can I see a show of hands of people that are using RLSA today? Okay, so quite a few of you. Excellent. One of the things that we spend a lot of time on at Marin also is a lifetime value estimation. And this is the ability to tie back the true value of a visit to the keyword that brought it in and also the audience that brought it in. And it's a confusing process, so I wanted to walk through the steps, and then maybe separately we can catch up and you can let me know how you do it at your shop. But it seems to me that a good first step is always to understand what are the known attributes of an order or an initial interaction. When a new visitor comes to you, do they express an interest in a product? Do you know their location? And do you have some concept of how much they're going to spend? And again, this is not about looking back in time. This is a first interaction with a visitor. And based on those attributes, then look at your other customers that you've had for a long time and try to figure out which of those attributes moves the needle. What makes a difference? Do your urban customers spend more than your suburban customers? Do men spend more than women or vice versa? And do certain products drive a longer relationship cycle or drive a higher value for you? And if that's true, then look at that initial order that's coming in and put an estimated value on it based on all the other orders that looked like that over time. Now this lookup table looks suspiciously like a bunch of zip codes. There are a lot of zip codes in the US. Most companies don't have the ability, they don't have enough samples to actually come up with an average value for each zip code. But DMA can be a good way to boil that down and get to a good sample size. Product interest, I find, is usually very influential in determining the value of these visits. So this obviously gets very category specific very quickly. But it's a simple concept that when somebody comes to the site, you can put a value on them more than their initial purchase, because they're worth something down the road. And different customers are probably worth different amounts. And that lets you then bid more effectively for those keywords that are bringing in more or less estimated value. Then every once in a while you want to go through and update your lookup table to have accurate values. But You can do that monthly or quarterly or even annually. So that's sort of a simple 4-step process for lifetime value. Definitely takes participation between marketing and finance and IT. So can be a challenging project. There are a lot of other sessions on natural search here at SMX. I just wanted to highlight what we see going on. There's a keywords not provided trend from Google, KNP it's called, which means that you're going to be optimizing more to the page itself rather than the keyword that came to that page. That means that people probably end up having fewer, they'll probably end up having more pages that are more narrowly focused. And you want to attract a certain set of keywords to that page. You don't necessarily know for each visit what keyword brought that visit in. At the same time, the SERP page will have richer results. Here's another shot showing that panel info on the right. And in fact, Google, for a search on NFL, is showing actual scores. I took this a little while ago, by the way. Showing actual scores on the top left. So, and then the deep links. And then in some cases, Google is showing the carousel results, very mobile inspired, but it lets you scroll through more content without losing the bottom of the page. So KNP was the biggest change in 2013 around natural search. They went from about 12 or 15% keyword not provided to about 95% keyword not provided. Jumping into search and social, they fit together quite well. Social is growing 2 or 1.5 times faster than search. Search is still quite large. These are reflective of the numbers that I was showing earlier. And most of that in the US is Facebook. The social marketplace can get very crowded when you look overseas. We count 200 social networks, and the largest ones have ad products. But you can see from the bar chart here that Facebook dominates the advertising landscape, followed by Twitter and LinkedIn, both of which are growing fast and have high quality traffic. When you look at social together with search, it monetizes better than search alone. So think about for especially your non-brand campaigns, can you drive more awareness using social channels, both earned and paid social, to increase your click-through rate on your name? And also, it's important to tease out the visitors that visit both search and social. And this is a little tricky to do. One of my suggestions is use the Facebook tracking system, which will show you view-through conversions on your Facebook ads. Use another tracking system as well, such as Google Analytics or Site Catalyst, or even Google Pub tracking, meaning the AdWords conversion counter. Marin has a tracker. Lots of tracking systems out there, but you can compare the numbers back of the envelope between the Facebook view-through conversions and the last click conversions you're getting from Google Analytics, for example. And you can see if Facebook is present in those sessions. You won't be able to get an exact number, but it will give you sort of directional evidence that people are seeing your Facebook ads and then converting, even though your last click credit will go to Google in most cases. It's good to be last click. It's good to be Google. But that will give you some gauge of how relevant that Facebook visitor traffic is in your conversion stack. We're seeing a big trend in Facebook advertising away from the right rail and into the news feed area. So this is from a screenshot I took on Facebook last week, and you see the suggested post there for North Face San Francisco. That's not me. I know you guys are thinking that's me. It's not me with the kettlebells. But I don't know that guy either. That is an ad that was placed into my news feed, and I've learned to ignore the right side like all of you have, which is where the ads used to be. Now the ads are more front and center and harder to ignore. So that's been significant progress for Facebook ads. And now really the news feed is the only place to be. Cross-channel in general is growing. I was just mentioning this a little bit out of order. But about half of all revenue comes from purchases that took more than 1 day of consideration. And 2/3 of revenue came from purchases that were made in more than one step or more than one ad click. Now, both those ad clicks could be on Google or they could be mixed across these channels. And there are also some emerging tools that let you calculate attribution capabilities across these channels. But again, the poor man's version is what I was just mentioning. Get the view-through conversions from the Facebook tracking pixel and then compare those numbers. So just wrapping up, our vision for paid search is that it will become a more connected part of all these channels and this ecosystem: mobile, PLA, social influence, and then audience buying via behavioral signals, contextual signals, or demographic signals. The search starts on the left side of the circle, Black Mountain Backpack. From there, you get to learn about an audience or a visitor. You can expand that. You can overlay your data on the value of that audience. And then you can activate that audience through a buying layer to get more traffic just like those people, or retarget that person for completing their sale or upselling. So that is the end of my official comments. Thank you very much.